Thank you, Bryce. Welcome, everybody, to this Sunday morning service here at Salt and Light Christian Church. The story that I will be telling for you all this morning is about the renowned author and apologist C.S. Lewis. Lewis was born in 1898 in Belfast, Ireland. And as a young boy, he was raised by an Anglican Christian family. And they forced him to go to church pretty much his entire childhood. As a young teenager, Lewis began to question what the whole church thing was about and come up with his own opinions. And seeing the horrors and the wickedness of the world, especially during the First World War, C.S. Lewis came to the conclusion that this loving God that the Christians preached had to either be a liar or to not exist. And he declared himself an atheist. He stayed this way, he kept this mindset for the rest of his young adult life. He ended up, because of his intellectual thinking and his talent in that field, he ended up going on to work and teach at Oxford College, where he ended up meeting his dear friend J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of the Lord of the Rings books, another renowned author of the time. And Tolkien was a devout Catholic. And despite their disagreements on religion and God, the two of them became fast friends because of their shared interest in mythology. Despite this shared interest, the two of them heavily disagreed on essentially the purpose of different mythologies. Lewis believed that mythology was, in general, and mind you, he lumped in Christianity into mythologies. He believed that they were in general lies made up by people to either teach some lesson or help people in hard times. However, Tolkien believed that despite the obvious errors in many mythologies, that they held bits of truth in each of them, that they were sprinkled with bits of truth that were revealed by God to man, to people. And he went on to explain to Lewis how Christianity, Christ's coming as God in the form of man and dying for our sins and resurrecting from the grave, was in fact the only myth that was true, and was the only myth that actively showed God's interaction with reality. In Tolkien's words, he said that it was the only instance that eternity stepped into the realm of time. And this conversation changed Lewis's opinion. It made him re-question his thoughts that he had held so staunchly for so long. And in his early 30s, he changed his mind and declared himself this time as a theist, believing in the existence of God, however unsure of who God was. And so, coming to the conclusion that God did exist, he then wanted to know who God was. And it was just a matter of coming to the truth of God. Not a long time after this, Lewis ended up converting to Christianity and going back to his roots in Anglicanism. This slightly disappointed Tolkien, as he was hoping he would become a Catholic like him. However, he was overjoyed. His disappointment was crushed beneath his enjoyment of the fact that his friend Lewis had finally accepted the truth of who Christ was and who God was. And throughout the rest of Lewis's life, especially the times shortly after World War II, he began publishing many different writings about Christianity. And his name, C.S. Lewis, quickly became a household name all around the United States and eventually around the world, largely due to his friendship with J.R.R. Tolkien. C.S. Lewis was an awesome guy. He was an intellectual. He was an author. He very intently thought before he acted or came to conclusions or wrote things down. And this is apparent in his writings. The story of his life is a beautiful example of how God uses us as his people to reach out to the lost and to witness to them and to reveal himself through us, his people, to the lost and dying world. And so we can see how Tolkien's influence on Lewis's life changed him. Not just the rest of his life here, but his eternity afterwards in heaven. So thank you. Let's bring the music up.